The pen hits the table before her uncle finishes signing. $360,000. That is the number. That is the number that just purchased 60 days of Amara Osei's life, and she does not look at her uncle's shaking hand, and she does not look at the men behind the chairs with their blank faces. She looks at the room, because a room tells you everything about a man before he speaks. Black marble floors. Charcoal walls. No art. No warmth. Just precision designed to remind you exactly how small you are inside it. And then there is the piano. It sits in the far corner like something that does not belong here. A Steinway grand, lid closed, dust settled along the fallboard. It does not match one thing in this room. That makes it the most important object in it. She walks toward it. She does not ask. Hi viewers, if someone traded you to clear a debt, what is the very first thing you would do when you walked into that house? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because what Amara does next changes everything. She passes the guards. She passes her uncle. She reaches the piano, lifts 2 fingers, and presses one key. Middle C. The note opens the room like a window thrown wide in a sealed house. The man in the wheelchair, the man who has not spoken once, who has been sitting at the edge of the light like something carved from stone, goes rigid. Not a flinch. Something older and deeper than a flinch. His chin turns a fraction. Both hands lock around the armrests. His eyes, fixed on the rain moving down the floor-to-ceiling glass, move. They find her. She does not know that the most trusted person in this room already has his phone in his hand. His name moves through rooms before he does. Liangshan does not announce himself. He does not raise his voice, flash a weapon, or spell out consequences. He enters, and every room reorganizes itself around him the way water reorganizes around a stone. He built the New Orleans operation from 4 city blocks when he was 26 years old. Not through noise. Through patience, the specific predatory kind that lets you stand completely still while your competition burns itself down waiting for a blow that never arrives. By the time they understood what he had taken, he had already moved on to the next acquisition. He speaks in short, complete sentences. He does not explain himself twice. He gives one instruction, gives it once, and the men who have worked beside him for years have learned that the silence that follows is not patience, it is judgment delivered at a frequency they cannot hear. The estate has 22 rooms. Not one of them contains a single object without purpose. Except the piano. It was here when his family acquired the property. He passes it every day. He has not once considered removing it, because removing it would require deciding what it means, and there are certain decisions that cost more than the outcome justifies. 3 of his guards have never heard him laugh. 2 have never heard him raise his voice. All of them have seen what happens when someone mistakes his quietness for softness, and all of them carry that memory the way you carry something that changed your understanding of the world. The wheelchair is 14 months old. He does not count it that way. He thinks of it as a problem requiring a solution at the pace the problem demands. The blast meant for his rivals detonated close enough to matter. The surgeons called the spinal injury incomplete, a careful, bloodless word for what it actually took from him. He can stand briefly. Walk sometimes, with a cane. But the chair is the daily truth, and every man in his circle has learned never to look at it directly. What none of them know, what the accident took beyond the legs, is the hearing. Nerve damage, right ear, selective and unpredictable. In a quiet room, he catches most of what is said. In rooms full of echoing marble and moving bodies, he misses register. He misses the shift in a voice that carries warning before the face does. He reads lips without letting anyone see him do it. Almost no one knows about the hearing. Marcus Vidal has been beside Liangshan for 9 years. His smile arrives at exactly the correct moment in every conversation, never too fast, never missing its cue. His courtesy is architectural, load-bearing, perfectly maintained, impossible to fault on any single occasion. He was the first person to reach Liang after the explosion. Marcus's hands on the wound for 9 minutes, steady voice, waiting for the ambulance. Liang has not forgotten those 9 minutes. Neither has Marcus. He draws on them the way a man draws on credit, sparingly, strategically, when he needs the room to give him something. 3 months before the explosion, Marcus opened a quiet line to the Baton Rouge family. Small information. Correct information. Delivered at intervals precise enough to establish trust without triggering anything internal. He was not betraying anyone. He was ensuring himself. This is the distinction he returns to whenever he examines it, and he examines it often, the way you examine something that looks fine until the light hits it at the wrong angle. She's still here. She counts the exits before she unpacks. 3. The main entrance, 2 guards, a camera angled too high for useful coverage. A south kitchen door, 1 rotating guard, a 45-minute window between 11 and 11:45. A service access on the east side, no camera, standard key padlock, a blind spot wide enough for 1 person moving without lights. She found all 3 in the 40 minutes between arriving at this house and being shown to her room. She walked the first floor slowly, carrying a glass of water, wearing the face of a woman who is overwhelmed and quietly terrified. She has used this face before. It works because it is partly true. Her name is Amara Osei. 29 years old. Private music teacher. $38,000 in her checking account, not savings, but the remainder left after 18 months of rice and beans 4 nights a week and teaching piano scales to children whose parents have never once had to choose between the light bill and groceries. The debt belongs to her brother Kofi. He is 20 years old and gifted in the exact way that costs people the most. The kind of gifted that trusts the wrong investors because it genuinely cannot believe that someone smart enough to be charming would also choose to be ruthless. He borrowed from men connected to a shell company connected, eventually, to a name her uncle said in a low, careful voice at her kitchen table 6 weeks ago, sitting with the posture of a man who had already made a decision and was only now delivering it. 40,000 became 360,000. Interest compounded the way punishment compounds when the person applying it wants you to understand that the number was never the real point. Her uncle offered a resolution. The resolution was her. Not as something she would accept being degraded, she had been direct enough about that to make 2 armed men step back. A household musician. 60 days. A resident presence for a man who could not sleep and lived alone inside a house full of people terrified to look at him. She agreed because Kofi has no one else. She unpacks 3 changes of clothes. Sheet music. A metronome. A small photograph of Kofi at 18, grinning on a beach they can no longer afford, looking like someone who does not yet know what is coming for him. She gives herself 2 seconds with the photo. Then she opens the sheet music. She had studied Liangshan for every minute she was in that receiving room. She logged the left ear angling forward in conversation, compensating for the right, which she clocked as the damaged one. She logged his eyes moving to lips before faces, the way a person learns to read a room through what it shows rather than what it says. She logged the tension in his hands, not aggression, but something held far below aggression, in the place where a person stores the things too heavy to put down and too important to release. She logged Marcus Vidal, the lieutenant with the perfectly timed smile, who watched her instead of the room the moment she played that note. Who had his phone out before she even lifted her finger from the key. She does not know yet what to do with that. She tucks it the way her mother taught her, not buried, not dismissed, but held at the exact edge of awareness where it can be retrieved the moment it becomes necessary. She lies on top of the covers, fully dressed, and does not sleep. 12 minutes past midnight. She opens the piano lid and does not sit down. She stands over the keys like a person who has learned the cost of touching something before understanding it. The room is dark except for city light pressing through the tall windows. The marble floor is cold through her socks. She presses 1 key with 1 finger and listens, not to the note, but to what the room does with it. Where the echo collects. Where the sound dies before it should. How long before the marble swallows the sustain. She adjusts the bench. She sits. She runs a single scale, slowly. The piano is old and well-built, and has been ignored the way beautiful things sometimes are, deliberately, because looking at them costs something. The upper register sits slightly bright from humidity. The pedal is heavy. The middle keys are perfect. She begins the Chopin Nocturne in E-flat major. Opus 9, number 2. 8 bars in, she feels the floor shift. Not footsteps. A distributed vibration, the specific weight of a wheelchair chassis moving on marble, coming from the east corridor without hurry. She does not look up. She does not stop playing. He takes the doorway. She gives the nocturne everything it asks for, eyes mostly closed, body moving the way it moves when there is no audience and no performance, and the only thing in the room is the music and the room itself. She lets the left hand carry its full weight. She does not rush the resolution. She plays the piece the way it was written, for the dark and the long hour and the feeling of something beautiful that is almost already gone. When she finishes, she holds the last chord until the room is completely quiet. You rush the middle section. His voice is low, flat in register. She catalogues this immediately. He projects to compensate, which confirms right-side dominance on the hearing loss. She turns on the bench. I know. You did it deliberately. She looks at him. He is in a dark shirt, sleeves pushed up, and he looks nothing like the carved, precise figure from the afternoon. He looks like a man who stopped pretending, at some point between dusk and midnight, that not sleeping was a choice. She finds him considerably easier to read this way. The east wall pulls the echo, she says. It accelerates the phrase. I was mapping the room. His left ear turns fractionally toward her voice. Play it again, he says. Slower. She turns back. She plays it slower. She opens the middle section completely, holds the hesitation for a full measure, lets it exist before she releases it toward resolution. The room holds it with her. When she finishes, the silence behind her has a different texture than any silence in this house has had before. You corrected it, he says. That's what I'm here for. A pause. Where did you train? Accra. 2 years. Then New York. New York didn't keep you. New York took exactly what I gave it. She turns now, because she has decided this is the moment to turn. I came back because my family needed me to. He looks at her the way he looks at every room he enters, measuring what is real and what is positioned. She holds it. You play like someone constructing something, he says. Not showing it. Building it. Showing it off is for audiences, she says. This is not that. He says nothing. His eyes move past her to the piano, to the open lid, which was closed for 3 years before tonight. Something surfaces in his face and is pressed below the surface before it fully forms. But she sees it. He turns the wheelchair. He leaves. She sits without moving for a full minute after the sound of the wheels fades. She was wrong about one thing. Not about the grief, she found it exactly where she expected. Wrong about its source. She assumed the accident. The chair. The body that stopped cooperating. This grief is older than the accident. The accident only uncovered it. He heard every word. 3 nights. Same shape to each one. She plays until 2. He arrives between midnight and 1. He takes the doorway. He says almost nothing. He leaves. She maps the room. He maps her. Either of them acknowledges this. On the 4th night he does not come. She is 30 minutes into a Debussy prelude when she stops mid-phrase and lifts her hands from the keys. The house has changed. She feels it before she can name it, a shift in atmospheric pressure, the way a building feels when something is wrong with it from the inside. The south perimeter guards have been quiet for 9 minutes longer than their rotation. The man posted at the base of the east staircase is 11 minutes overdue. These are small deviations. Small deviations are the only kind that matter. She closes the lid. She sits in the dark. She runs it. Liangshan is in the east wing, one light visible under the door she passes in the corridor every night. Marcus Vidal left the property at 9:15. She logged it. He returned at 10:40 with a man she has never seen, wide through the shoulders, civilian clothes carrying a military posture underneath, jackets sitting heavy on the right side in a way that has nothing to do with the phone. One unfamiliar man placed inside the perimeter by Marcus. 2 guard positions empty. The boss alone. She goes to the kitchen. She takes her time, fills a glass, drinks half of it at the counter, watches the south garden where the light has not triggered. The unfamiliar man is at the kitchen table. Coffee cooling beside him. He checks his watch with the rhythm of someone counting down to a window, not waiting out a shift. She says nothing. She refills her glass and goes back to her room. She sits on the edge of the bed. This is not her problem. She plays piano. 60 days. Kofi's debt is the reason she entered this house, and staying out of internal operations is the only strategy that keeps her walking out of it intact. She thinks about her mother's silence on certain mornings. About what it cost to choose not to act when acting was an option. Amara stands up. She does not go toward the east wing. She goes to Paulette's door, the woman who runs this house, like it is the only problem worth solving. 2 knocks, low and direct. Paulette opens in 10 seconds. Already dressed. Already holding the radio. The expression of a woman who was lying awake with the same read on the same house and was waiting for someone else to confirm it. The south garden light, Amara says. That is all. Paulette holds the look for 3 full seconds, recalibrating, and then keys the radio. 4 minutes. The unfamiliar man detained at the kitchen table before he fully stands. 2 missing guards found locked in the equipment room off the garage, unharmed and furious. Marcus Vidal, reached by radio, produces an explanation that is too smooth, too immediate, and too complete to be anything other than prepared. He had the story before anyone asked for it. Amara is back in her room when the security sweep moves through the corridor. She hears them slow at her door. She hears them move on. In the morning, a tray appears. Coffee, the kind from the inner circle's kitchen, which she has never been offered. A folded paper underneath, handwriting angular and precise and belonging to someone unaccustomed to writing notes. How did you know? No question mark. A prompt. She writes on the same paper, the same way you know when a phrase is wrong. The room changes before the sound does. The tray disappears. That night at midnight he arrives before she begins. He does not take the doorway. He moves inside the room, closer than any previous night, positioned with the piano between him and the wall, and her between him and the rest of the house. She does not name this shift out loud. She begins to play. Debussy. La Cathedral Inglaudi. The submerged cathedral. Music built on the feeling of something enormous moving beneath a perfectly still surface. The melody rises like mass breaking through water. Then it sinks. Then it comes back. It never fully resolves. Only the rising and the disappearing, over and over, the almost there and the almost gone. He stays for every note. She can feel the change in how he listens, not watching anymore. Listening with everything available to a man who stopped trusting any single sense to carry the whole truth. When the piece ends, she keeps her hands on the keys. He does not leave. The silence stretches longer than any silence in this house has had before. And then she sees it, in the dark glass of the tall window across the room, the one that catches corridor light in its reflection. A figure in the hallway gap, standing completely still. Holding a phone. Watching. Marcus Vidal. No practiced smile. No measured courtesy. The expression on his face is the expression of a man who has finished weighing something, and the weighing is done, and the decision has been made. And the decision is not a small one. Would you have said something to Marcus that night, or stayed quiet and waited? Tell me in the comments what you would have done. She does not tell him what she saw in the window. Not that night. Not the next morning. She files it in the same place she filed Marcus's phone on the first night, at the edge, accessible, waiting for the moment when using it costs less than holding it. On the 9th night, Liangshan speaks before she sits down. She adjusts the bench. She sits. Tell me what you see when you walk in here, he says. Every time. Not tonight. In general. She sets her hands in her lap. A room built for control. Everything placed on purpose. Nothing accidental. She pauses. Except the piano, which is the one object that breaks the whole logic of the space. A silence. Then, and when you look at me? She does not rush the answer. A man who built something total and then had it taken from him part way. Not the operation. Something older. She meets his eyes. I don't know yet what it was. He holds the look. You're direct. I ran out of time for anything else. He says nothing to that. He looks at the piano. He listens. This is a different quality of listening than the early nights, less measuring, more receiving. She tracks the change. When it ends, she says, the meeting Marcus scheduled with the Baton Rouge family. He goes still. Ask who requested it, she says. She keeps her voice level, like she is discussing an acoustics problem in the room. Not what Marcus tells you the answer is. Ask where the original contact originated. He looks at her. He does not ask how she knows about the meeting. He does not ask why she is telling him. He looks at her the way a man looks at something he was not prepared to see. I will ask Paulette, he says. Ask her tonight. She turns back to the piano. She plays again, something she builds as she goes, unhurried. A few minutes later, she hears him leave. Paulette comes to her room at 11 that night. Her expression is specific, the look of a woman who confirmed something she already suspected and is deciding who she trusts with it. It came from inside, Paulette says. I know, Amara says. He wants to speak with you in the morning. Tell him I'll be at the piano at 7. Paulette looks at her for a long second, the look she has given Amara twice before, each time recalibrating the distance between what Amara appears to be and what she clearly is. She leaves without another word. The morning meeting goes 20 minutes. Liangshan asks 4 questions. She answers 3 of them directly and the 4th with a question of her own that redirects without evading. He sits with his hands flat on the table, watching her the way he watches rooms before he enters them. When she stands to leave, he says, the Baton Rouge meeting is still happening. She turns. I want you to play, he says. She understands. In the room. Background, he says. Furniture. Furniture that hears everything, she says. He does not smile. But something shifts in his face, something brief and controlled and unmistakably close to the neighborhood of a smile. 7 tomorrow, he says. She goes back to the piano room. She sits on the bench without playing. She thinks about what it means that he just positioned her inside an active operation, what he is trusting, what he is risking, what he already knows she can do. She thinks about Marcus in that window. She opens the lid and plays the same revel from memory, this time without ceremony. Just the bones of it, clean and deliberate. Outside, Marcus Vidal stands in the east corridor with his phone to his ear. He is talking in a low, measured voice. He is talking about a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. He is talking about a musician who has no business being in the room. The person on the other end says something brief. Marcus nods once, as though the other person can see him. Handled, he says. The Baton Rouge meeting is scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. At 1:55, Amara walks into the receiving room carrying sheet music she does not intend to use. She sets it on the piano's music desk, adjusts the bench, and begins playing scales. Soft. Methodical. The sound of a professional warming up, nothing more. The room fills. Marcus stands to the left. 2 degrees too close to Liang's position. Not behind. Beside. She plays. She plays through the greetings. Through the opening exchange where De Souza lays out the territorial proposal with the patience of a man who already believes the answer is yes. She plays through Marcus's voice cutting in at precise intervals, too smooth, too agreeable, steering the conversation away from Liang's questions toward De Souza's answers. She tracks everything. De Souza's men shift wait at 16-minute intervals. They are waiting for something. Marcus checks his phone under the table at 14 minutes and at 22. The second check is followed immediately by a fractional adjustment in his posture, a settling, like a man who has just received confirmation of a thing he needed confirmed. She knows that posture. She has been watching it for days. She plays 3 chords. Loud. Wrong key. Hard enough to pull every head in the room. In the 2 seconds of broken attention she just bought, Liangshan stands. He is out of the wheelchair and on his feet before any of de Souza's men have finished turning back around. He does not use the cane. He stands the way a man stands when he has been waiting to stand and has chosen this specific moment deliberately. Straight. Still. Taking up the full space of himself. Marcus's hand moves toward his phone. Liang's left hand closes over Marcus's wrist before the phone clears his pocket. Not forcefully. The way you close a door, complete, final, requiring no drama. He says one sentence to de Souza. She does not hear it. She is playing. De Souza hears it. His face does the specific thing a face does when it receives information that requires complete recalculation. His men, reading him, do not move. Security handles Marcus. 2 men. Efficient. He does not resist. He looks at Amara as they move him toward the door, one long, direct look, and his face carries something she has not seen on it before. Not anger. Not fear. Recognition. He knew she was in this room for a reason. He just miscalculated what the reason was. De Souza and his men are escorted out without incident. The room empties in under 3 minutes. Liangshan sits back down. The room is quiet in the way rooms are quiet after something irreversible just happened inside them. He looks at her. She looks at him. Her hands are still resting on the piano keys. You could have been the target of that, he says. I calculated the risk. Against what? She does not answer immediately. She looks at the keys. She presses one, not a performance, just a single note. Middle C. The same note she played the first night, in the same room, in front of a man who had not moved in over a year. Against the cost of doing nothing, she says. He is quiet for a long time. Long enough that the room settles fully around them, the city hum returning, the afternoon light moving on the floor. Tell me about your brother, he says. She turns on the bench. You already know about Kofi. I know the debt. I'm asking about him. Something shifts in her chest, not pain, but the shape that forms around pain when someone asks about it directly instead of around it. He's 20 years old, she says. He trusts people because he wants to believe they're worth trusting. It costs him every time. She pauses. He gets that from our mother. What do you get from your mother? She looks at him. The part that knows when the room changes. He nods once. Not agreement, acknowledgement. The distinction matters with him. She has learned to read the difference. Outside the estate walls, a car idles at the corner for 11 minutes and then leaves. Inside it, a phone call is already being made to Baton Rouge. The recording device is taped to the underside of the piano bench lid. She sits with it in her palm for a long time. She runs the math. Every conversation she has had near this piano. Every exchange she and Liangshan have had in this room. 14 nights. Every word. She carries it to the east wing and knocks twice. He opens the door in his wheelchair, shirt untucked, the look of a man in the middle of a document review. She does not apologize for the hour. She sets the device on the table beside his papers and steps back. He looks at it. He does not touch it. How long? He says. The device is recent. 3 to 4 weeks. A pause. The arrangement may be older. Yes. He looks at the device. She has watched this man command rooms without raising his voice. She has watched him absorb betrayal at a meeting without blinking. She has watched him stand on legs that do not always cooperate and deliver a sentence that ended a decade-long territorial negotiation in under 30 seconds. She has not seen him look the way he looks right now. It is not weakness. It is the thing underneath the fortress after the fortress wall comes down, not rubble, but the original unprotected thing that the wall was built to defend. He is looking at the object that represents 9 years of loyalty, and is calculating what those 9 years actually cost. He held pressure on the wound, Liang says. It is not a statement to her. It is a statement he is making to himself, checking the weight of it, seeing if it still holds meaning. I know, she says, keeping her voice steady. 9 minutes. That doesn't change what he was doing the 3 months before the explosion. He is quiet. One long breath in, released slowly. Marcus was not stolen from him. Marcus was always already somewhere else. The 9 minutes at the wound were real and were also a tool. Both things are true and neither cancels the other, and that is the specific cruelty of it. She does not try to name this for him. She sits in the chair across from his desk and waits. This is something she learned from music before she learned it from anything else, that sometimes the only correct thing to do is hold the space and let whatever needs to surface at its own pace. After a long time, he says, what he did with access to me, specifically while I was. He stops. She waits. That is a particular kind of damage, he says. Yes, she says. It is. He looks at her. Not the measuring look, not the cataloging look. Something more direct than either of those. You stayed, he says. When you saw him in the window. You stayed. I stayed. Why? She does not answer right away. She looks at his hands on the desk, the same hands that gripped the armrests the first night she played, the same hands that closed over Marcus's wrist without force or drama, the hands of a man who has spent years making sure nothing he cares about shows on the outside. Because leaving was never the point, she says. He holds her gaze for 3 full seconds. Then he picks up the device. He makes one phone call. Short. Direct. 3 sentences. When he hangs up, he says, the Shin Quarterly gathering is in 11 days. Every principal in the city will be in this house. He sets the phone down. I need a pianist. She understands exactly what he is asking. What time does it start? She says. The night of the gathering, she arrives at the piano 40 minutes early. The room begins to fill at 7. She plays. Soft, continuous, unhurried. The sound of background. The sound of furniture. She watches the room the way she watches a score, tracking every voice, every shift in volume, every moment when the energy changes register. Marcus Vidal enters at 7:20. He stands in his corner. He smiles at exactly the right people. He makes the exactly correct number of brief conversations. From across the room, he looks like what he has always looked like, the trusted lieutenant, present, composed, reliable. She watches him check his phone at 7:34. He looks up. He looks at her. She keeps playing. De Souza arrives at 7:45. He came despite everything, she had expected that. Men like De Souza come to rooms like this because appearing is always better than not appearing. He moves through greetings with the precision of someone making calculations with every handshake. Liangshan enters at 8. At 8:17, De Souza approaches. She watches Marcus's hand move to his phone. Marcus's thumb presses the screen. She plays 3 chords. Full force. The wrong key. The sound cuts through every conversation in the room like a light thrown on in a dark theater. Every head turns to the piano. In the 3 seconds of broken attention, Liangshan's security team moves to De Souza's men at the windows, hands contained before the turn is complete. Liang himself stands from the wheelchair, unhurried, using a full 3 seconds to come fully upright, letting everyone in the room see exactly what they are seeing. Marcus looks at his phone. His face undergoes a change she watches from 12 feet away. The message he sent did not go to Baton Rouge. Liangshan looks at Marcus. Marcus looks back. His smile attempts to reassemble. It does not complete the assembly. You built a case, Marcus says. Not an accusation. An observation from a professional who is recognizing the work. You built one too, Liang says. Yours ran out of time. They are recalculating now. Marcus is escorted out. Not roughly. with the same efficiency and absence of drama that marks every action in this house. He passes Amara on the way to the door and does not look at the piano. He looks at her. She holds it. She does not look away. The gathering continues. She plays for another 90 minutes. Standards, Gershwin, late-night jazz that sits underneath conversation without demanding attention. She plays the room the way she plays an instrument, feeling where the tension is, where it needs release, where to push and where to let it breathe. At 10:15, the last guests leave. The house stills. She keeps playing after everyone is gone. Something slow and deliberate, the kind of playing that is not for anyone, that is for the room and for the instrument, and for the specific hour when a thing that was held at great cost finally lets go. She does not hear him behind her. But she feels the floor shift, the familiar vibration, close and unhurried. He stops beside the piano bench. Not behind her. Beside her. Close enough that she is aware of him the way she is aware of where the sound goes in a room. She finishes the phrase. She lifts her hands. Either of them speaks. She is about to turn when he speaks. He smiled, Leung says, when they brought him the warrant. For half a second, before he understood, he smiled. Because he thought the message had sent. She is quiet. He was sure he had already won, Leung says. Most people are, she says, right up until the moment they aren't. He is quiet for a long time. Then she turns and he is closer than she expected, not the careful managed distance, not the cataloging gaze. Close, and looking at her with the look she has not seen before on this face. Not measuring. Not containing. Just present, the way a person is present when they have stopped spending energy on the walls. She does not move away. 1 month later. Same hour. Same room. She plays the Chopin Nocturne. The same piece. The same room. Everything the same and nothing the same. The Chopin ends. The last chord dissolves into the ceiling. She keeps her hands on the keys. Kofi called, she says. I know, Leung says. He is beside the piano. He has been here since the second movement. Paulette told me. He wanted to know why the debt cleared. She pauses. I told him it was an accounting correction. That's not entirely wrong. She almost laughs. She does not. But the almost is real, and she lets it sit there. She is still deciding how she feels about a lot of things. There's a conservatory in New Orleans, she says. They have a position. Resident faculty. I interviewed last Tuesday. He says nothing. She can feel him listening. I haven't decided, she says. I wanted to. To tell me. Yes. He puts his hand over hers on the keys. Not to stop the playing. To be inside it. She lets him. And that is when he asks it, quietly, without preparation, without the careful management that used to precede every word he said to her. If I hadn't come back, he says. If the music hadn't reached whatever was left in me, would you still have stayed? She does not answer immediately. The silence stretches. The city breathes outside. The piano holds the last note until the room has absorbed it completely. She looks at his hand over hers. Power is not control. It is what you rebuild after everything is taken from you. She turns back to the piano. She plays the first note of something that does not have a name yet. I stayed, she says, because this room needed to be played in. She feels him exhale beside her, slow, complete, the release of a breath held across the longest distance he has ever crossed. Outside, the garden district does what it has always done. The iron gates hold the quiet. The live oaks mark another hour. Inside, 2 people sit beside a piano that was covered in dust 60 days ago, playing something that has no name yet, and no ending yet, and no ceiling yet on what it might become. If this story moved something in you, if Amara's courage, or the long road back, or the way one note of music can reach what years of silence could not, share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Leave a comment and tell us, which moment in this story stayed with you the longest? If you are not subscribed yet, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a story on this channel. We bring you stories about people who were counted out, who rebuilt from nothing, who found their way back through the most unexpected doors. This community grows because you share it. Share it today. Someone in your life needs this story more than you know. We will see you in the next one.